Spam. The square-shaped mashed up pork, salt, water, sugar, potato starch, and sodium nitrate was the product started in 1937 and is now a popular brand with over 8 billion cans sold. It's 77 years old, but no one knows how a 12-year-old boy struggled to make it a brand. In today's video, let's talk about how Spam was invented. Here we begin. Spam is a canned cooked pork brand manufactured by Hormel Foods Corporation. Hormel Foods Corporation is an American food processing company founded in 1891 by George A. Hormel as George A. Hormel and Company in Austin, Minnesota. George was born in Buffalo, New York in 1860. He was the third child of German immigrants John George and Susanna Decker, who met in America. The family relocated to Toledo, Ohio when George was about 5. They went with Christian Hormel, his uncle, and Ferdinand Heyer, a family friend. Ferdinand was a German immigrant who worked at a leather tannery in Buffalo with John George. Christian, Ferdinand, and John George established their own tannery in Toledo. They called it Hormel and Heyer and used sheepskins to make leather. Along with Ferdinand's sons, George worked at the tannery after school and on weekends. After several years of operation, the company encountered difficulties when the financial crisis struck. Because of the Depression's impact on business, 12-year-old George dropped out of school to work and support his family. He worked at a meat market for a while and learned a lot of things. He trimmed meat, made sausage, sold it, and delivered it. George later worked at a cargo dock, a lumber yard, and a railroad company before returning to the meat industry. George spent 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, in the meat market learning how to process and pack meat. George worked there till he was 19 years old and later left the city due to low wages. He moved to Kansas City and struggled to find a new job. He was eventually hired as a wool buyer, but George's boss stole $100,000 in company funds and fled. George returned to Chicago, where he worked for a hide dealer, unloading shipments. While working there, he was offered a job as a traveling hide buyer for the company. So he relocated to Des Moines, Iowa, and traveled throughout Iowa and Minnesota for the job. He grew tired of constantly moving around after a few years. Finally, he returned home, which made George realize how much he missed having a community around him. He wanted to be part of a family, settle down, and start his own business, but he had no idea what business to start. In Des Moines, George had the idea to open a butcher shop. He wrote to Gus for partnership, but later George decided to strike out on his own. While on a business trip in Austin, Minnesota, George discovered that one of his customers owned a meat market that had recently burned down. Anton Frederick, the store's owner, had rebuilt it, but he no longer wanted to run it. So George decided to take advantage of the opportunity. He borrowed $500 from his boss and purchased Anton's ownership stake in Austin Meats Market. George also started a business with Anton's son, Albrecht Friedrich, and they opened the Friedrich and Hormel Meat Market together. But unfortunately, the new collaboration would not last. After they split up, George used the money to start a packing house on the outskirts of Austin. G.L.A. Hormel and Company was the name he gave to his company. Later, he learned over time that pork had the least waste and highest profit potential because every part of the pig could be used. As a result, George chose to specialize in pork packaging. George prioritized quality, innovation, and waste reduction to make his mark. Then, another financial crisis struck out only 2 years after expanding, putting George's company in jeopardy. Borrowing money from a friend, George expanded his company outside the Midwest to Minneapolis, Chicago, San Antonio, and Atlanta. George also began exporting his products to Europe, and the company generated millions of dollars in sales after 20 years in business. However, he eventually relinquished control of the company's day-to-day operations and appointed his son, Jay, as acting president. Around this time, Jay traveled to Germany and, on the advice of a friend, met with the owner of a meat processing plant, Paul Jorn. When they met, Jay discovered that Paul had invented a method for curing and sealing entire hams in cans. 1 year later, George A. Hormel and Company introduced Hormel Flavor Sealed Ham, America's first canned whole ham product. The company's release catapulted the company onto the national food scene, prompting the company to quickly offer more canned products such as spiced ham and whole chicken. George decided to retire at this point and handed over ownership of the company to Jay. The company, later renamed Hormel Foods, expanded into ready-to-eat products under Jay's leadership. They introduced canned soups, stews, chili, spaghetti, and meatballs, but their most famous product was yet to come. Unfortunately, when the Great Depression struck, sales of Hormel's canned goods plummeted. Jay made the decision to create a new product. Taking after his father, who always was concerned with reducing waste, he decided to use surplus pork shoulder in unwanted and unprofitable cut. The company also decided to package the meat in 12-ounce cans, making it easy to prepare at home. Jay chose Spam after hosting a contest for the best product name, which is rumored to be derived from the words spiced ham or shoulder of pork and ham. During the final years of the Great Depression, Spam was introduced. It was a cheap source of protein, selling for 29 cents a can and kept for years without refrigeration. Spam is made primarily of pork shoulder and ham, along with salt, water, modified potato starch as a binder, sugar, and sodium nitrate as a preservative. In addition, natural gelatin is formed on the production line during cooking in its cans. However, it wasn't until the Second World War that Spam became a household name on a global scale. During this time, the US military shipped many canned meats to troops in the Pacific, including over 100 million Spam cans. As a result, it was dubbed the ham that didn't pass its physical, meatloaf without basic training, and special army meat, among other things. However, because they ate canned meat 3 times daily, many soldiers grew tired of it. Some were so angry that they sent Hormel to hate mail, calling Spam a ham that didn't pass its physical, meatloaf without basic training, and the reason war is hell. Meanwhile, back home, civilians grew tired of canned meat. Simultaneously, Spam was included in aid packages sent to Europe and Russia. Its adaptability and long shelf life, even in high temperatures, made it valuable during difficult times. With that, it became popular worldwide. It was consumed in the US and territories every second, totaling nearly 122 million cans annually. It became a staple in nearly 30% of American households, though percentages varied across the country. Also, Hawaii residents have the highest per capita consumption in the United States. Hawaiians refer to it as Portuguese steak. Spam musubi is a popular Hawaiian dish consisting of cooked spam atop rice, wrapped in a band of nori, a type of nigiri. To compete with the local McDonald's chains, Hawaiian Burger King restaurants began serving Spam in 2007. Spam is so popular in Hawaii that it's sometimes called the Hawaiian steak. In addition, every spring, the island of Oahu hosts an annual Spam-themed festival known as the Waikiki Spam Jam. Following World War II, New Forge Foods, part of the Fitch Lovell Group, was awarded the license to manufacture the product in the United Kingdom at its Gateacre factory in Liverpool, where it remained until 1998 when production was transferred to the Danish Crown Group. Meanwhile, Spam is a popular food item and cultural symbol in the Philippines. Spam is commonly served for breakfast with rice, usually garlic fried rice, and a sunny side egg. Spam's popularity transcends economic class in the Philippines, and Spam gift sets are even given as holiday gifts. Hormel decided to market Spam differently in mainland China, promoting it as a foreign premium food product and changing the Spam formula to be meatier to accommodate local Chinese taste. Other food companies in China produce canned pork products that resemble Spam under the brand name Luncheon Meat. In Okinawa, Japan, the product is added to onigiri alongside eggs. It's a staple ingredient in the traditional Okinawan dish, champer, and the local fast food chain Jeff sells a Spam burger. During the Korean War, Spam was widely consumed in South Korea, leading to the development of the Spam kebab in Korean cuisine. Spam was added to a rice roll with kimchi and cucumber and wrapped in seaweed due to a lack of fish and other traditional kimbap products such as kimchi or fermented cabbage. This is the story of how unwanted cuts of pork saved millions of people from starvation and became a staple of several cuisines, leading to the product becoming world famous and bringing in billions of dollars in sales. Let us know your views in the